Alright, in this lesson we're going to be learning how to tune your guitar without a tuner. If you have an electric tuner, it's pretty self-explanatory. You just play the note, and if it's sharp or flat, adjust accordingly with the tuning keys here. But what you want to do when you're tuning and you don't have a tuner, you need to have an E, or at least be close to a low E note. So you'll either have to have access to a piano and play an E on a piano. If you look at a piano and you find a group of 2 black keys, because there's groups of 2s and 3s on the piano on the black keys. If you just find a group of 2 black keys and you go on the right side of the 2 black keys, that's an E. Okay, because you have 3 white keys surrounding those group of 2 black keys. And the middle one is a D, the one on the left side is a C, and the one on the right is an E. And the E is the one you want to get this low E. So you play an E on the piano, and see if I can reach mine here. Okay, so you have to have a starting note first. So if you don't have access to get an E note, then you just have to kind of guess. But you can also go online, and there are actually sites that will play an E through your computer, and you can hear what pitch it's supposed to be. But anyway, you get the E first. Now your next job, after you have the E, and of course when you're if the note is flat, that means it's too slack, and you've got to tighten it. Okay, so when I tighten with my left hand here, I'm going to go in a counterclockwise motion. Okay, counterclockwise to tighten, clockwise to loosen. Okay, so if the note is flat, then that means it's too low and I need to tighten it. So I'll turn it counterclockwise. Okay, if the note is sharp, then I'll need to go in a clockwise motion to loosen it, to get it back down to pitch. Now, when your guitar just goes out of tune naturally, because they just will, they'll always go flat. Okay, if you have some weather changes, that can make it go sharp. But if just general wear and tear and use, it's going to go flat. It's going to get looser. Okay. And you'll need to tighten it. Now, once you have the E, we need to get the A string now. Now we're going to get the A note from the low E that we already tuned. And the way you can do that, if you go to the 5th fret on the low E, that's an A. It should be the same note as this A, right? And if you play them both together, play one and then play the other, and listen what happens. You can hear there's a little bit of a wah, wah. If it's really out of tune, I'll go wah, 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 wah. I'll show you. I'll make this go out of tune. I'll flatten it. So I turned it clockwise to loosen the tension. So now it's going to be out of tune. You see, and then I turned it counterclockwise to tighten it back up till they sounded like one note again. One. If it's out of tune, it'll go wah, 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 or just wah, 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 wah. And you need to tighten it until it sounds like one note. Now, if you pass it up and you tighten it too much, it'll start doing that wah, 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 wah thing again. And you want to get it right where it sounds like there's one note. Now, that was the 5th fret. Now you can do the exact same thing to get the D string. Okay? So once I have the A string tuned, I can go to the A string and do the 5th fret. And that's going to be a D note. Same thing as the open D. So I'll do. Now that one's out of tune. Let me make it more out of tune so you can hear it. Now the D, I loosened the D string, so now it's really flat. And I'm going to tighten it up until I don't hear that wah 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 sound anymore. Hear that? So now we have. Sounds like one note. So the A, the D, we're in tune now. Now we're going to go to the D string. I'm going to do the same thing. 5th fret is a G note, which will give me the open G. So I have, well, that's perfectly in tune, so I'm not going to mess with it. Okay, if it were not in tune, I'd have to adjust accordingly. And again, if you pass it up, if you get it too tight, it's going to start wobbling again, and you went too far and you need to go back the other way. Now, once you have the G string in tune, getting the B string is different. To get the B string, you're going to go on the 4th fret on the G string, not the 5th. So this one's different. So 4th fret on the G string is going to give me a B note, which is the same note as my open B. It's a little bit out of tune, and I'm going to make it more out of tune. And then I'm going to bring it up for you so you can hear it. Went too far. It's pretty close there. Now sometimes you'll get a warble with the tone, because if the strings are old, you'll have what's called a false string, and it'll warble. You know, even if you're just doing one string, it'll give a wah 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 sound because the string's old. And you need to change your strings out. These are actually kind of old here. But now, after you get the B string, then we're back to the 5th fret. So tuning the B string is the only time you will need a 4th fret on the G there. All right. So once we get that, then we can go back to. Actually, let me get that B again. All right. Now the E string sounds a little high, so I'm going to loosen it. Go, then I can test it, play a chord. If it sounds awful, you know it didn't do it right. You got to do it again. And it actually takes some skill to be able to tune. And once you've done it for a while, you can actually tune, you know, without even going to 5th fret. You can just listen if you've tuned enough and then be able to tell. But all right. So anyway, there's your tuning lesson.